And you're just like, wow, something needs to happen for this neighborhood because we have people who are out here suffering and they have no place to go.
Phoenix, Arizona, a city once hailed as the jewel of the desert, where endless sunshine promised prosperity and a skyline rose as a testament to ambition. But in 2025, the mirage has shattered. Beneath glass towers and luxury high-rises, a humanitarian crisis unfolds in plain sight. Sprawling tent encampments, fentanyl overdoses, and families displaced by an unforgiving housing market. This is no longer just the story of growth, but of collapse. How did America's fastest-growing city become a front line of despair? And what does its unraveling reveal about the future of urban America? 2025, Phoenix carries two identities. One is polished and ambitious, its skyline shimmering with glass towers and fresh streams of investment. The other is stark, undeniable, and written across its streets. Tent encampments spilling across sidewalks, blue tarps sheltering families, shadows shifting in the unforgiving desert night. This is not a temporary hardship. It is an unraveling in real time. Only a few years ago, Phoenix was celebrated as America's fastest-growing city, a magnet for opportunity. But expansion has revealed a darker cost. Police and outreach workers now estimate that unsheltered homelessness has surged nearly 40% in just 2 years, leaving more than 10,000 people in Maricopa County without a permanent place to call home. The city's promise of affordable living has collapsed under the pressure of rising rents, stagnant wages, and relentless migration. For many, survival is no longer measured in years or months. It is calculated one scorching day, one dangerous night at a time. Each evening tells stories that never make the glossy tourism brochures. Mothers press children close against the desert chill. Veterans drift past shuttered storefronts, clutching their belongings in plastic bags. And almost everywhere, the sight repeats itself. Men and women slumped over, lost to fentanyl's grip. This single drug has redrawn the city's landscape. Cheap, lethal, and inescapable, fentanyl sweeps through the valley with ruthless efficiency. By 2024, more than 2,500 overdose deaths were recorded in Maricopa County alone, most tied to its toxic reach. Paramedics carry Narcan as routinely as oxygen tanks, but even that cannot keep pace. Behind every number lies a face, a brother, a daughter, a friend whose story ended on a cold stretch of pavement. To walk downtown at dusk is to feel the tension physically. The desert air is dry, yet heavy with unease. Encampments stitched together with scraps of canvas line the avenues. You hear the cough of someone huddled in a corner, the muffled cry of an argument, the metallic clink of a spoon against a lighter. Just blocks away, neon lights flash from bars and clubs, spilling across tents like cruel reminders of a parallel world, one of indulgence, towering above another of despair. What makes this surge more alarming than crises of the past is its relentlessness. Previous waves of homelessness occasionally receded with economic recovery or new housing programs. This one only grows. Eviction courts overflow. Shelters run far beyond capacity. And each cleanup of Phoenix's notorious zone simply scatters lives further into the valley, multiplying the crisis rather than containing it. So the question lingers in the desert heat. How much longer can Phoenix bend before it breaks? When growth itself becomes the engine of collapse, what future awaits the city that once symbolized opportunity? Desert drive down 12th Avenue, near the state capitol, and you enter a place Phoenix leaders rarely acknowledge. Locals call it the Zone. Once a corridor of civic pride, it has become a stretch of despair, where tents press shoulder to shoulder, choking the sidewalks. Canvas walls conceal lives fractured by loss, addiction, and exhaustion. Police dismantle the camps, city crews haul away debris, but within days, the streets fill again. More tents, more bodies, more quiet rage simmering under the desert sun. Here, survival is measured in blankets and luck. "I'll be freezing if I don't have my blanket," one man says, his voice steady but tired. There are people who work night shifts at Amazon, and they just can't afford a place. His words cut to the heart of the crisis. Homelessness is no longer confined to the unemployed or the addicted. It has crept into the lives of workers who keep the city functioning, yet can't secure the simplest dignity of a roof. The math is ruthless. A one-bedroom apartment now averages $1,600. Wages for service workers, cooks, and cleaners hover around $14 an hour. The gap is unbridgeable. Those who once sustained Phoenix are being pushed out, exiled from neighborhoods they built with their labor. And so the city wears two faces. Above, glass towers gleam with rooftop pools, wine bars, and promises of prosperity. Below, the sidewalks tell a harsher story. Rows of blue tarps, discarded needles catching the sunlight, families huddling as sirens pierce the night. It is a contradiction too stark to ignore. Lobbies with marble floors and doormen standing just steps from children trying to sleep on concrete. Violence adds another layer. About 7:30, 8 a.m., 20 gunshots went off, recalls one resident. 2 different guns, and right over there, a non-profit was serving us breakfast. The scene is jarring. Ordinary life colliding with chaos. Sunday morning, remade into a battleground. The zone has become more than geography. It is a reflection of choices made, policies pursued, and the cost of unchecked growth. The desert heat presses into faces lined with fatigue, while fentanyl snakes silently through alleys, tightening its grip with every dose. What happens when the nation's fastest-growing city confronts a humanitarian crisis it cannot contain? Phoenix is on the edge of finding out. The skyline still sparkles, but the ground beneath it is cracking. The unraveling of Phoenix was never about a single disaster. It was a storm of forces colliding at once, each amplifying the other until the city buckled under the weight. Start with housing. For years, Phoenix marketed itself as affordable, a refuge for those fleeing the high costs of California, Seattle, and Denver. But the influx came like a tidal wave. Arizona needs 134,000 affordable housing units for low-income workers in our state. But experts tell me we're only producing about 1,500 a year, and that deficit will continue to grow without a reliable, sustainable source of funding because this work requires heart, experience, and a whole lot of money. Developers built fast, but not nearly fast enough, and what did rise from the desert was designed for the wealthy. Luxury condos, high-end rentals, gated subdivisions. Ordinary apartments became scarce, and rents soared beyond what a service worker could ever hope to cover. Today, the average one-bedroom swallows more than half the paycheck of a line cook or grocery clerk. So many places, they are a very transient population. They're couch surfing, they're living in substandard housing, they're in overcrowded housing with other families. Then comes the paycheck itself. Wages never stood a chance against the housing rush. Phoenix's economy relies heavily on service jobs, dishwashers, retail clerks, cleaners, positions that pay just enough to survive in theory, but not enough to live in practice. The math is merciless. One step behind on rent, one car repair too expensive, one illness without insurance, and suddenly the spiral begins. But the cracks go deeper. Arizona's mental health infrastructure was dismantled decades ago, leaving thousands untreated, adrift, and invisible until they appear on the street. The system doesn't fail them quietly, it abandons them wholesale. Police officers double as social workers, jails as psychiatric wards. Those who slip through fall hard, with no net to catch them. And in the shadows of this unraveling, fentanyl waits. Unlike heroin or meth, fentanyl doesn't just seduce, it annihilates. It's cheap, lethal, and everywhere, turning casual use into addiction in days. Dealers cut it into everything: pills, powders, even marijuana, until the line between experiment and overdose disappears. In Maricopa County, the death toll climbs each year, the body count written in statistics that blur into tragedy. Then there is the heat. Few outsiders grasp the cruelty of an Arizona summer. At 110 degrees Fahrenheit, concrete burns skin. At 115 degrees Fahrenheit, water vanishes from the body in minutes. For the unsheltered, it is not discomfort. It is survival against an oven sky. Shelter beds are already scarce, and when they fill, the streets become open-air furnaces where shade is currency and dehydration is death stalking slowly. Phoenix didn't stumble into this crisis. It walked straight into it, driven by growth, paralyzed by policy, and blind to the storm brewing until it was too late. By sundown in Phoenix, the shelters have already slammed shut their doors. Every mattress claimed, every cot spoken for, every waiting list stretched into weeks. The city's fragile safety net tears a little wider each night, spilling people onto sidewalks, alleys, and parking lots. What was designed as a lifeline has become a lottery, survival depending not on need, but on timing and luck. Anytime we lose shelter capacity when we haven't reduced overall homelessness, it's detrimental because it puts more people at greater risk. Step inside one of these facilities, and you'll find overcrowding that mirrors a disaster zone. Families sleep shoulder to shoulder, air thick with exhaustion and fear. Counselors juggle impossible caseloads, while addiction treatment slots vanish before names are even written down. Job training programs, once touted as pathways out, exist mostly on paper. The system was never built for this scale of desperation, and now it's collapsing in plain sight. For Maria, a mother of 2 young children, the shelter network is not a refuge but a revolving door of rejection. When her eviction notice arrived, she clung to hope, sure the city would provide some form of relief. Instead, every call she made ended the same way. We're full. Tonight, she parks her car behind a strip mall, wrapping her kids in blankets, whispering promises she knows she can't keep. Her greatest fear is not hunger, but discovery. Police knocking on the window, strangers circling in the dark. The back seat has become both her prison and her fortress. Stories like Maria's are not rare. They're the rule. Each day, parents weigh impossible choices. Leave their children exposed on the street or risk splitting up to qualify for separate shelter beds. Couples are told they must part ways. Teenagers are turned away for being too old. The mentally ill are handed pamphlets instead of treatment. The system's failures don't just leave people homeless. They strip away dignity, trust, and any sense of belonging. Meanwhile, Phoenix boasts new luxury towers with valet parking and sky-high balconies. The contrast is so sharp it feels surreal, gleaming steel above, desperation below. City leaders promise reforms, but reforms take years. Families need beds tonight. Until then, the broken shelter system remains what it has become, an illusion of care, a facade that hides nothing, a hollow echo of hope. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit like, share the video, and help more people see what's happening. The promises always sound bold. New housing complexes, expanded recovery programs, safer, better staffed shelters. On paper, they read like lifelines. But in Phoenix, those lifelines unravel long before reaching the people who need them most. Every initiative seems to sink in quicksand. Budgets swell, contractors withdraw, deadlines slip. Neighborhoods protest shelters proposed in their backyards. City leaders hold press conferences, but once the cameras fade, so does the urgency. The desert sun bears down harder than the will to act. Even when projects push through the mire, they open already overwhelmed. A shelter designed for 200 fills in days. A treatment center built for 50 faces hundreds at its doorstep. By the time one ribbon is cut, the need has doubled, swallowing progress whole. The streets, however, do not pause. Police sweeps scatter encampments from block to block, pushing men and women like debris ahead of a storm. In the process, people lose their tents, their blankets, even their IDs, the fragile anchors tying them to any hope of stability. Officials call it cleanup. What it clears is visibility, not suffering. Addiction treatment remains scarce. Detox centers turn away desperate callers, their lists too long to manage. Meanwhile, fentanyl spreads with ruthless precision, cheap, potent, and omnipresent. Dealers never miss deadlines. Bureaucracy always does. For every one person who finds a bed in rehab, 3 more spiral further out of reach. What passes for reform often feels like patchwork. Leaders hand out meals, mats, and pamphlets, bandages on wounds that demand surgery, preventive systems, robust mental health care, affordable housing, and wages that match the cost of survival have trailed decades behind the crisis now consuming the valley. The gap between promise and delivery grows wider each day. Those with nowhere to sleep watch construction cranes idle against the skyline. Those with nowhere to turn watch budget meetings drag on, hours consumed while lives unravel in minutes. In Phoenix, survival ticks faster than legislation. Each day is a race between the heat, addiction, and exhaustion. The city makes plans for tomorrow. Its people beg for today. And yet, beneath the chaos, light flickers. For every headline about fentanyl overdoses, there's a quieter story of survival. For every collapsed tent, there's a hand reaching out to lift someone from the ground. Phoenix, for all its failures, still has people who refuse to surrender. Youth mentorship programs are beginning to carve out lifelines for the next generation. They don't just hand out backpacks and pencils. They pair struggling teenagers with guides who remind them that the streets don't have to dictate their destiny. Some of these kids, once written off, are now stepping back into classrooms with a purpose they never felt before. It's fragile progress, but it's progress nonetheless. Volunteers, too, are surging forward in ways statistics rarely capture. Retired nurses are setting up first aid tents. Local churches are organizing food drives that stretch late into the night. Strangers pool their money to buy sleeping bags when the desert's winter chill bites hardest. They aren't solving homelessness overnight, but they are proving that apathy is not the only option. Then there are the tiny home villages, an experiment that feels almost radical in its simplicity. Instead of endless rows of cots in cavernous shelters, these villages offer something profoundly different. A key, a lock, a space to call one's own. It's a door that closes, a moment of privacy, a taste of safety. Those who enter these communities speak of sleeping through the night for the first time in years. Dignity, once stripped away by the grind of street life, begins to return. The numbers are still grim. Thousands remain outside. The fentanyl wave hasn't slowed. But even amid the devastation, these sparks matter, because they remind the city of something that is too easily forgotten. Homelessness is not an unsolvable riddle. It's a human crisis, one that bends when human hands insist on shaping it. The hope is not yet ablaze. It's fragile, flickering, threatened by the winds of bureaucracy and despair. But if nurtured, if more people step in, if more resources follow, it could grow into something stronger. Phoenix's streets may be scarred, but they are not without resilience. In every act of compassion, there is the blueprint for change. Phoenix is not just fighting homelessness, it's fighting for its identity. The skyline may glitter, but shadows grow longer on the streets below. If leaders stall, if citizens look away, the city risks becoming a cautionary tale instead of a beacon. The truth is chilling. The next person lost to the streets could be someone you know, a neighbor, a friend, even family. This is Phoenix's moment to choose. If you believe this story matters, share and subscribe, because silence builds nothing, but together, voices can build change.